contrast with ancient Egypt, British archaeologists and necromancers have discovered the means to reanimate dead bodies, quickly replacing mechanical inventions with cheap, undead labor. But some fanatics plan to summon Moloch, an ancient god, and cast his burning wrath upon London. Only one thing stands in their way. The gentlemen of the Unicorn Club. Her Majesty counts on you in the campaign to thwart the cult. Rise of Moloch is a Victorian adventure board game for 2 to 5 players that takes place in an alternative England where magic and technology have taken an extraordinary turn.
Hey everybody, it's Doug here, Doug Mr. Guy on Board Game Geek, bringing you a special episode to the channel where we're going to explore the world of Smog, Rise of Moloch, and it's a game that I just received from CMON. I want to go over it with you, maybe do a quick unboxing, or maybe not so quick unboxing, and then also get into some gameplay. So please stay tuned to the end of the episode because I'm going to ask you for some help in what we're going to do in this gameplay scenario, who we're going to have in the game, etc. So let's get through it. Look at what's happening inside the box. I'm going to read you the back a bit, and then we're going to dig into what's inside, and as well the other expansion boxes that come along with it. So let's get to it. So as you can see on the back of the box, gives you a nice overview of the game board and the players and the different miniatures that come in the game. Talks about the components, and this is again by CMON Games and also Guillotine Games, which makes Zombicide, one of my favorite games, that and a couple of other great games like Massive Darkness, etc. So they also made another game within the World of Smog, which is more of a strategy game as opposed to a miniatures game like this one. But it basically says Rise of Moloch is a Victorian adventure board game for 2 to 5 players that takes place in an alternate England where magic and technology have taken an extraordinary turn, while one player acts as the Nemesis and takes control of the secret society called the Cult. Other players embody gentlemen dedicated to thwarting the conspiracies that threaten the crown, stopping the Nemesis by any means necessary. The game comes with 6 different chapters that can be played as individual scenarios or as a campaign that tells an overarching story of Moloch. Now, that's true, but also with the Kickstarter release of this, there is a massive amount of other content. So there's a lot more than 6 scenarios, and there's a lot more than the what's listed here on this box. This is simply the base box. So we're going to explore that first. I've taken the shrink off. I haven't opened up anything else. So we'll explore this first. Then we'll get into what's called the Arcanist Extras, which is the Kickstarter extra components, and then we'll get into the other expansions that come with the game. So here's what comes in the box. You have to pardon for some of the glare. Some of the overhead lighting is creating a bit of glare on the glossy covers of these things, but I'll put them on the table. We'll look at them in a different light source, but I just wanted to show you how the game comes when you open it up. So you get this, the Rise of Moloch campaign book. This has the scenarios in it. We'll take a look at that in just a moment, as well as the rules. And one of the things I like about this setup is I did look in the box is the insert is a little more functional for the game. A lot of the inserts that CMON put in the games, I'll give you an example, would be Rising Sun. There's a lot of spots for the miniatures and everything, but there's never really a good place for stuff to fit. I'll tell you, this one's a bit different, and I kind of like that. It's laid out very differently. So notice that all the main components come in wrapped plastic, as do the game boards and all the other components that are in there, but we'll go through it a bit at a time. First, let's take a look at the rulebook and scenario book. Looking at the rulebook, it's pretty nicely laid out. I love the artwork and the Victorian steampunkish type theme around the game. While it's not traditional fantasy, it still has a fantasy feel to it, and it does harken back to like a steampunk England with magic and really interesting characters, etc., that are part of the game world. At any rate, as we get into it, you see there's a traditional table of contents, and there's an introduction story. I'll leave that to read on your own if you choose to pick up this game or acquire it. It goes through each of the basics. I noticed that the CMON's rule books have gotten better over time. I remember when they first started, they weren't fantastic. They were laid out well, but there was a lot of gaps in the rules. They've gotten better. They're laid out in a better, more linear, easier to follow fashion. So, you know, typically it goes with it shows you the game overview, just simple concepts of the game. Then it shows you the components and what each of the components means in the game. So you got your player aids, your curtain token, all this stuff that you get, the curtain right there, but then you get all these other things as well, plus all the miniatures. We're not going to go into details. The door tokens, fire tokens, interest tokens. That means points of interest on the map that you can go and investigate. And then it gets into the cards, what the different cards are, the activation cards, the ally cards, upgrades, Nemesis powers. So there's just 8 Nemesis power cards. We don't have to worry about that too much, but there's 94 equipment cards. Plus there's these torment cards. And the torments are interesting. It's like when you get injured to a certain level, you have to take a torment. You only ever get one, but it inhibits your character if you're playing one of the good guys. And then you get these chaos cards, which allow you to do and have certain functions, plus location special cards for different things, and then of course the tiles. So you get a big component overview, kind of goes into detail about what each component does, what the board layout, what each thing means. We're not going to go through that though. And then again, it goes through in pretty good detail what different things do and what the control tokens do. And then after it kind of gives you a really good overview of all the component pieces, it gets into the game itself. So you don't even get to the setup of the game until you hit page 12, which I thought was interesting. They kind of did it in reverse, and I like that because it talks about the components first, and then once you've gotten an idea what all the components are, it shows you how to bring them together into the game. So, starting the game, picking your scenario, etc., different boards and actions that take place, all the different stuff. I've read through most of it, so I got a pretty good idea of how it plays out. It is a tactical miniatures board game. And I do like that while the base boards they're not very different, you get to place buildings on top of them that really change the configuration. And it also talks about, the hits. There's and like many CMON games, the dice are, I hit once with a bonus if applicable. The crown gives me a special bonus, sometimes a special bonus compared to an ability. And then you go over here, you get dodge and cover. Those are applicable at certain times. Etc. And then you can do different things. Sometimes special powers will highlight a certain thing. Like you don't normally get the hit plus, would just be normal hit unless you have a special ability. And they're powered by something called ether. And when the gentlemen use ether to power their abilities, they give that ether to the Nemesis player who's doing the bad actions. So there's a trade-off there. It's kind of a push your luck. The more I use my abilities as a gentleman, the more I'm feeling the negative effects that the Nemesis can use. And then at the end of that, if you complete a scenario, win or lose, depending on who won or lost, it'll change how things progress. But there then comes an intermission phase where the players get to enhance their characters and abilities, and the Nemesis gains power, etc. I like that aspect of it because it really pushes the campaign elements of the game. So you get to beef up your characters in between. That's the last page. That's the rule book. Then you get onto the scenario book. This is pretty beefy, and I noticed that the first bit of it, there's a lot of reading here. The first several pages, I think up through 8. No, that's not true. These are still characters. Up through, up through page 12 is all story elements about the characters, about the world. I love that idea. That's a great concept. Really helps you immerse yourself in the world of Smog, and then it gets into the scenarios. And the scenarios go in a succession. So you can play through a campaign, or you can just play them individually. Now, when I do the playthrough, we're going to play an Unhappy Hour, which is going to be something with the Whitechapel Police Station. We're going to be at the very base game scenario that we're going to play. So just keep that in mind as you're going through this. And when you set up, it gives very specific setups to things that need to happen. Okay, and again, there's a number of these. There's Chapter 2, Ghosts of Curator. It's in Whitechapel, and it goes on and on. It gives you a number of them. Like I said, there's 6 in the base game. But then there's many, many more that come with the expansions. So now that you've seen that, let's unpack these components. I'm going to get my X-Acto knife out here. We're going to open this up and take a look at the different components. Again, you have a number of boards. So this is the round track board. And this, you see it's on really good stock. This serves 2 purposes. So if I flip this over, it also has one of the intermission boards that are up there with the upgrades, etc. There's 2 of these, and you'll see that in a second. But basically, this board serves the purpose of being a round tracker. For instance, sometimes this counts as how many gentlemen are knocked out of the combat in a certain scenario, and if so many are knocked out, then you lose a scenario. And one of the things that's unique about this is how you take the turns. So the expedition leader or the group leader of the gentleman plans out who goes when and in what order. Now, there's obviously some character input as well, but then the Nemesis player gets to plan out their turn as well. So you get the gentleman player goes, and the Nemesis, and and they activate different things. So this might be one of the gentlemen. This might be minions, like zombies or something like that. Then another one of the gentlemen or women. and then maybe one of the agents of the Nemesis, one of the more powerful characters. You never know. It's, you know, they try and plan their strategy out. That's how that works. And then over here again, you have the board for the. This is one of the intermission boards, I believe, and you can, you know, get different upgrades and things in between the play sessions. So then you have, now I'm not sure, this looks like the London setting board. Kind of takes you through some different things. I'm not sure how this one works yet. We'll have to see how that plays. I'm not sure. And then again, here's another one of those boards that this is the board that allows you to track the special abilities of your enemies, etc. Like it also shows you what happens when you gain ether. So when you gain ether from the players, you're going to put some of the things on the boards and the cards that you've collected through here. That's going to give you your powers. And I may not be giving you 100% accurate information instead I've only read the rules once. And then you get to the tokens. They're very nice. The doors, now, a lot of the other CMON games have plastic doors. I don't think I got them with this. I don't believe I did, but we'll see in the upgrade box. So, you know, typical tokens for this type of game. These are the building tokens. I really do like the artwork on them. It's quite nice. You can see like it's a steampunkish thing, these steam events on the floor and the big machinery parts that are running there, and then you have a nice like Victorian age study on the other side. They're double-sided, and you'll use them specifically based on whatever the scenario is. And of course there's some that are larger than others. So here's a very large tile, looks like a tavern of some kind, maybe a pub, and then you have a basement here, and then of course some rubble tokens and some crates, things that are going to cause blockages, some kind of crazy temple. We'll see. I'm not going to want to spoil it all for you, but things are going to happen, right? And again, you continue to get these, and these symbols have meanings, but they're not important for our discussion right now. You'll learn what they are as you play. They're going to mean different things, different scenarios. Then you have some like a room full of crates and a big giant critter that you have to deal with. And then you get to the tokens. Whew, okay, so you got things like wound tokens, you got ether tokens, upgrade tokens, tokens that allow you to convert dice to special abilities, fire tokens here. These are the objectives, like the special objective things on the board. These could represent treasure or things like that. Special tokens for those things, and then where the exits are on the map if you have to rush for the exit or something like that. Okay, that's what comes in that first packet that we popped open. Now here is the 4 main boards. These aren't really that dynamic, but I'll show them to you. Okay, so here are these big boards, and there's still quite a bit on them because they're going to represent different areas, but you're going to lay these out in a map grid. And oftentimes it'll be like this side with buildings on top of them. Like you can see there's some kind of dock here, some kind of wharf, where other ones are just going to be very basic. There's like a rainy street with a sewer in it, sewer grate, and you see another one. So you might put them together like so, and you would be able to create a board for them based on, again, completely based on the scenario. So if I show you the scenario book, again, just to give you an example of that, if I go to page 12 where the first scenario is, you can see that there is oh, well, here it is. Here's the map. So you can see you got the 4 big rain tiles going on there, and then the placement of all the bad guys and where everything goes and where the heroes go, etc. So it lays it out pretty nicely for you. Now this is what I was talking about, the insert. So this is a tray insert. The miniatures are underneath it. It's got a space for your standees, your dice, and all the cards in their own little separate spots, which I think is very, very useful. Now these cards, which I'll open up in a second, are your these base set gentleman cards. And when I say gentlemen, that's what they call them, but there's women in the mix too. Really interesting characters. Let's take a look at them now. Alright, so here you see, this is like Mrs. Major Dreadful. He's one of the gentlemen. These are stats: agility, trigger, and punch. Basically ranged and melee. And then agility is your ability to dodge and things like that. And you see that they have special abilities. He's got the Steam Fist, which you can see on his awesome player card is that thing right there. Some power device, and he's also got like a hunting rifle in his other arm. Anyway, the Steam Fist allows him to do a massive melee attack. It gives him a bonus to his melee attack. Then he's also got, these are his wounds, and when you take a certain amount of wounds, then you take that, I can't remember what the name of the card is. I told you about it in the previous segment. It's a torment or something like that, and then you can take a few more, and then your history. That is a special ability. This is charge, which allows you to do that. And then items you normally get just wrap around the outside, but arsenal items are more powerful, and those go in slots, and you can only have so many. So on the back side is the story of each of the gentlemen and what their history and background is. So in the base game you have this guy Major Dreadful, then you have See Emma Swanson. Let's move these off to the side for now. Emma Swanson, who I think is neat. She's got a big like alien gun that's a fundamental part of her arsenal. So you can see it right there. It's a pretty big, beefy thing, all lit up. I'm sure she was walking down the street and frighten everybody. And they also have some other things. Like I don't know how these play into the game yet, but these are jobs. So you saw that Major Dreadful was a knight. Emma Swanson is a dilettante, and she's got this symbiotic link with her gun. It's just a part of her now. And then she only has 2 arsenal spots because of her special ability. You can also see that she doesn't have nearly as many health as the knight. And you see that she also has a special ability. I'm not sure what that. I'd have to look them up. I'm not sure what they all do off the top of my head. But there's a player aid that helps you with that. Try to see if I can just quickly at a glance tell you what that does. Yeah, right. It's evasion. So when a figure's attacked, it can evade. It has a better chance to evade. There's only 3 of these types of abilities in the base game. Okay, and I guess based on the class you are is the one you're going to get. So this is one of the more interesting characters I like. Abigail Sutherland. She's like a ghost type character. She's an arcanist. She can channel spirits, and I think one of her abilities, I don't know if it's her or somebody else, is the ability to become possessed. Because they have ability cards as well. We'll take a look at those upgrades. And so these are her stats, and then she has this channel spirits that she can get a +1 to her agility and +1 to her punch at the cost of ether. Now remember, when you spend that ether, it goes to the villain to fuel their powers. And then of course you see the hit points there, and then that last special ability is counterattack. That means that you can counterattack after you've been attacked, and it costs a certain amount of ether to do that. And then of course the 3 arsenal slots that she has. And then we have a Mechamancer here, Walter Cavendish. You can see he's got like this. He also has a special device called the Tesla gloves, which are basically you shoot electricity from your hands in a very steampunkish way. You can see he's got this ability, dynamo, etc., and he also has the counterattack thing, but only 2 arsenal slots because of this weapon that comes with him inherently. And then you have the first real monster you see in the game, which is Drago, who's a werewolf. You see, he's a werewolf with a top hat. Kind of neat. Anyway, he's got this furious charge ability, so he gains a bonus when he uses that charge attack. And again, these folks are trying to work together to thwart the bad guy. And also, again, they all have the story on the back. So that's that. Now this set of cards, there's a couple sets of cards here. That's the player aid, but this is the one for the Nemesis mainly. So I'll unwrap those so you can see them. And these are some of the minions of the Nemesis. So you have the Lamia. And these are their special abilities. You can see that these are their stats and their hits and their specials that they have, and they get to do things on the board too. So these different minions do different things. So you have flaming zombies that the Nemesis can have, and it's going to be scenario based which ones they get to use. And you can see that they have different stats. The zombies, for example, only have 1 wound, but they aren't that easy to kill. They have a pretty good defense agility there. And you can see a Moloch spawn. It's some kind of weird Cthulhu-esque, Victorian-ish looking weird creature with a lot of hit points. So this is kind of a big beastie that's there. I don't think this is one of the agents. I think the agents look quite different, but we'll see, I think, and they're named. Anyway, there's the Royal Guard zombies. And then Titus, see, that's one of the Nemesis guys, your agents, and you see he's got very special abilities in there, and things that he can do even above and beyond that of the minions, and he's got a lot more health. He's got 16, for example, and you got, and they're really neat looking characters. Look at her with the weird, it's bizarre looking, Madame Edwarda. She is some kind of, she has tentacle shifts, so she's some kind of creature that works with the bad guys, the Nemesis, and you got Damon Smith, who's got the big plague mask on, some kind of plague gun. So he's a pyromancer. I don't know what a lot of these guys do yet. There's interesting things. Some of the agents, unlike the monsters, you can see the monsters have a back to their card, right? But the Nemesis agents, like this guy, are 2-sided, and that's because they can power up and become more powerful. You got the Hammersmiths, some 2-headed lady thing, looks like out of a carnival. The High Priest, I think he's one of the big baddies. And then you have the interesting-looking Irad Kodich, and then Emerson, who I've seen in some playthrough sessions. He's really neat. I think he's a sniper-type character. And then Tobias, who has this big spare parts. He's got this this saw thing that he's got. And you have some killer clowns. I love the artwork on this. Really, really neat. And then shambling zombies, which are like these gentleman zombies with their top hats and stuff like that. Pretty cool stuff. Those are the monsters. And then, of course, these are just the player rates that you get with the game. So we'll take a look at one of those. Okay, so it talks about the Unicorn Club. That's the good guys, the gentlemen, their activation and what they can do. Talks about the typical special abilities, and then the Nemesis activation. And on the other side, it has like what the different symbols mean in the game. That's a reroll symbol. That's the daze ability. That's fire. That's spreading. So fire would spread, knockdown, etc. It talks about allies and minions. Just again, just a really good little. There's enough for each player, and just a very good indicator of the turn order for yourself. So again, all these have a nice little slot. Like I said, I like this layout better that they did, and maybe because there's not as many miniatures with this game, but it seems to work better. And of course, you have the dice. We'll take a look at those. They have different symbols on them. Again, I don't know how each of them play out in the game, but they have like you have a hit plus. That's the hit plus. Then you have a normal hit. Then you have, I think that's like a dodge or defense, and that's another type of dodge or defense. And then the crown is like the big burst or something, like I said, you typically see in a CMON type game. So I think you get the idea. They're nice. They're very nice. I don't know if I like the gray. It's not very bright, but they're etched, so they're pretty nice. And I think the grayish brown, dirty color fits well with the theme, though it may not be as easy to play with. And then you have the cards. You got gear cards. You have. I'm going to open them up. You have the chaos cards, the Nemesis powers. And I think you have then the players. I think the players cards, right? The torments and other stuff. So we're going to take a look at a few of those. Let me open them up. In this first set of cards, you see we got a lot of gear, right? There's a ton of gear, and I'll just flip over a couple and see what they look like. So, for example, here's a momentum vial. Allows you to make a free attack, and then you discard it. And gear, I believe gear is all mostly discarded, from what I read. Then you have the Vim elixir. Interesting stuff. There's another one. There's probably some duplicates in here. Whiskey that allows you to gain some ether back, surgical bags, etc. So tons of different kinds of gear. We won't go through each one. And then you have the arsenal card. Now these are the more powerful ones. You can see that there's different kinds of different levels of arsenal cards there. So here's one, the battle fairy. It's like a little weird little cricket thing. No, it's like Jiminy Cricket, but a nasty-looking version. He's got a bonus action. You can make this attack, and so again, these are arsenal items that go in your gear grid there. So you got the mecha armor, which is a huge armor suit. Looks like some kind of old diving bell type suit. It gives you extra health and some ether, etc. You get the idea. And there's different levels of those. So the arsenal equipment, I think, has different types. I'm not sure. I haven't read all through them yet. But that's this first block of cards. So let's go through the next block of cards. Okay, here are the Chaos cards. These are the cards that the Nemesis player gets that allows him to do things, right? So you got a number of those. They don't really have any artwork on them, but they do have cool abilities for the Nemesis player. And then you have some artifacts. I think these are even more powerful equipment. Embryon, and they're probably scenario-based would be my guess. And there's, again, different types of those. So you can see different ones. Again, we're not going to go through them all. I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what's in this box. So in this particular stack, there were artifacts, gear, so a little more gear, and some chaos cards in this stack. And I'll probably divide them up so they're in their separate piles. But then we also have this one. So these are Nemesis powers. These are things that the Nemesis can do to those things that go on the board, the costume ether. And there's usually specific ones that come out just during the scenarios. So those are some of those. And then you have location cards to tell you that special abilities for the different locations that you might be at or do. There's quite a big stack of those. You can see there's a lot of these mini cards. The mini cards are good. They're good artwork. The font is good. It's very legible. I can read this pretty clearly even from a bit of a distance with my old eyes. And then you have allies. And so there's Blackmore, the ghost, as an example. Here's another ally, Sutcliffe. I don't know what the heck he is. The damsel, which you'll see in the first scenario, I believe. And then, there's also some others. This is a nanny, and there's no artwork, but Nanny 10 has some special abilities. And then you see Nanny 10 right there, so she's got something special that she does. And it looks like she's a robot, like a steampunk robot. And you have Bobbies, which are characters you're going to deal with, and then the minion activation cards. These are activation cards, actually, now. Yeah, It actually changes and says, yeah, okay, villain activations. And then you have the player activations as well. So I think you get the idea. The activation cards are used on that board I showed earlier. There's some more chaos cards and stuff in here. And there's the club activations. These are the players, Cavendish, Drago. You get the idea of how that rolls out. So that is that set of cards. Then we have one more, and we'll go through those quickly, and then we'll go through the meat of the thing that's most interesting to everybody probably is the miniatures. As I'm watching the time on this video, I realize I'm going to have to do this in multiple parts. So for this first part, we're going to just cover the base box, and I'm not going to get into the thing I need you for. That'll come in part 2 probably. I think I can cover the rest of the boxes in the next episode. Maybe it might take 1 or 2 more episodes to cover everything. So these are the torment cards. These are the things that happen to you when you hit a threshold on your health. So sense weakness, one agent may immediately make a free action. Ether flux. These are torments that you draw when you hit certain threshold levels. Some of them are staggered. You are knocked down. It could be that simple. You're knocked down. You got to get back up again. Some of them have lingering effects. I was trying to see what some of those are, because there's some that definitely have lingering. Head trauma, for example, it kind of sticks with you. Blurred vision, see, it gives you some negative features right there, and there's a bunch of those cards. And then you have upgrades. These are monster upgrades, and that means things like, I don't know what I guess like Drago, he's a monster, right? So these are upgrades that the monsters can have, and these are the player classes. So you got Bloodthirst. Each time you neutralize a minion, you heal 1 damage, right? Then you have upgrades for like I said, for the monsters. Then you have them for the Mechamancer. So it's based on, that's where the job comes into play. And we'll look at one of the ones for the Mechamancer. Ether Tank. So your starting Ether is +3. That means you get a bonus starting Ether at the scenario. So you go through those. There's the Knight cards, the ones for the Knight. Guardian. When a gentleman or ally in short range and line of sight is attacked, when we do the playthrough, you'll understand what all that means. Place your figure adjacent to them and become the target of the attack, so you can basically go defend them, right? And then you have the Arcanists, and these are the kind of like ghost spiriters. Reap Vita, gain 1 ether each time you neutralize a minion. You get the idea of how that works. And so those are upgrades that you can do during or as part of a scenario. And so those are the cards, right? So the last bit that I have to show you are the miniatures. Let's get them out and take a look. I'll show you that I wish they did on everything is tell you where everything goes. So that when you're trying to put them back, I was trying to put back, we had a big game of, like a 5-player game of Rising Sun, and I was trying to put back all the miniatures the other day, and man, that was such a pill, because I didn't know exactly where they went. You kind of tweak them around and see where they fit, etc., etc. But let's open up this box and see what's inside. It's kind of bulging, like there's the miniatures are getting in the way. But I'm going to open it off camera so you don't have to hear all the squeaking of the plastic. Yeah, so some of the miniatures kind of got out of alignment here, bumped around, moved around. There's one that's out of place somewhere from here. Let's see, is it this guy? Must be this guy right here, maybe. I don't know. He looks like he belongs down here. I think it's that guy right there. There we go. And these are obviously bad guys, right? So you can tell that the yellow miniatures are not good guys. These ones are, looks like these are, here's some of the agents. Got really neat miniatures. I can't wait to paint these. I keep saying that. I never get to them. Even though I did start painting my Darkest Night miniatures. There's that big guy with the carnival weightlifter, strong man type character, etc. And then you have the zombies. I love these gentlemen zombie miniatures. They are so neat looking with the top hats and the umbrellas. Very, very cool. And then these are the flaming zombies, the fiery zombies. So if you can imagine, that's actually fire rising up off their shoulder right there. You can see it clearly enough. Yeah. And then you have the guard, the royal guard ones with the crow sitting on their chest and the Crown's Guard outfits going on there. Then you have that woman, the two-headed lady that I showed you, and then also the Lamia. Look like they're kind of flying through the air, so there's this mystical aspect to it. Here's one of the other agents. I don't remember all their names, but you can see that she's being held up by some kind of zombie critter, or it's wrapping her around. Where's the one that had the neat tentacles? Here she is. She's got the tentacles coming out from underneath her dress and a veil over her face. She's really cool looking. Love that miniature. And then you also have the guy with the Tesla coil type gun thing on his side and the saber. Just very, very cool miniatures, guys. Here's the guy with the big saw blade. He's pretty neat. And then underneath that, there's some more minions, but more importantly are the gentleman characters. So you have these zombies that are like half-bodied zombies that you get to play with. There's a row or so of those. And then you have 2 sculpts for these clowns. These are the undead clown guys that are really neat. I love the artwork on these, and the miniatures turned out. If you can't, I don't know if you can see all the details because they're yellow, but there's quite a few details in these guys. So, yeah, and then you have up here, you have all the gentlemen and ally characters. So you can see you have the bobbies here, right? Then I'm trying to remember where the damsel is. Here's the damsel, the damsel character that you will see in the first scenario. She's a really neat miniature, actually, looking like she's all helpless. And then you have the bobbies here. They're pretty cool. And I don't know why these are empty. I guess they just have a recess because the miniatures on top of them are so big. But here's one of the bobby figures, and then you have the gentleman. So, you know, here is the guy with the Tesla gloves. Pretty cool. And again, you know, when people say, like, there's some games out there that say that, you know, to get the real good quality, you have to have these hard plastic unassembled miniatures you have to put together. I don't believe that is true, because look at these guys, are very detailed and very neat and not unassembled. Here's this guy with his big shotgun and his powered armor arm right there, the knight that we looked at first. Here's the werewolf figure ripping off his shirt as he's converting and turning into a werewolf. He's pretty cool. The ghost female character, the one that's an arcanist and like a spirit. She got tentacles coming up, floating up in the air. She's pretty cool looking. Again, all these deserve to be painted. I don't have the time to get them all and try. That guy's got he's got a noose hanging around his neck. Looks like he was hanged. He's very cool looking. I don't know what that miniature's for. These are obviously some of the allies, but this one is not. This is the woman with the alien gun, the gentleman with the alien gun, gentle woman. And then you have that nanny that is a robot. Very cool. Well, anyway, guys, that's the base box for the World of Smog, Rise of Moloch, which is, again, a tabletop miniatures game. Now, in the next segment, I'm going to go into the Kickstarter box, what's in there, and the expansions. I'll see how much I can get done in one video, but I don't want these videos to be too long by themselves, so you can skip around and see what you want. So in this video, again, it ended up just being the base game review, but we'll talk about that. And then once I complete this, we're going to do a playthrough. I'm almost done with something, and we're going to get this to the table and see how it plays. It'll be a lot of fun, guys. So thanks for watching this episode. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking all the time and checking it out. I think this is another neat miniatures game from CMON. We'll see how balanced it is. Some of the games, like I love their games, but sometimes, you know, like some of the characters are imbalanced. They put out so much material. There's really no way for them to effectively playtest all of it as well as, for example, like Gloomhaven is. I mean, so well thought out and play tested over years and things like that. But it doesn't make the game bad. It's the games are a lot of fun. They're fast-paced, and this is definitely one of those. Yeah, kind of reminds me of the others, but with a different theme on it and some different mechanics. The others has a little more to it than this in some cases. I don't know. I haven't played this enough yet to know, or I played it at all. So we'll see, but it does kind of give me that feel. And again, the miniatures are fantastic. The artwork's fantastic, and I can't wait to dig into the scenario with you guys. But anyway, in the next video, we'll get into the Kickstarter extras and the expansion boxes. So I'll see you then. Take care and have a fantastic day.